The National Desk, America's News Now.
The yeas are 216. The nays are 210. The resolution is adopted. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Breaking news as we come on the air. Representative Kevin McCarthy has been ousted as Speaker of the House. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. In an unprecedented vote, 8 Republicans joined all voting Democrats to vacate the chair. This is the first time in the history of the country the Speaker of the House has ever been voted out. Let's get right to Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman with the latest.
Well, it has been a chaotic nail-biter of a day here on the Hill as Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted from his role despite the overwhelming number of Republicans trying to protect him. And what it showed us is that it only takes a very tiny portion of the party to upend the entire system.
The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
And with that, Speaker Kevin McCarthy is Speaker no more, at least for now, after the very public spat between he and Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, a hard right-wing conservative.
Chaos is Speaker McCarthy. Chaos is somebody who we cannot trust with their word.
It seems very personal with Matt. It doesn't look like he's looking out for the country or the institution.
McCarthy could only lose the support of a handful of Republicans, and that's what happened. No Democrats coming to his rescue.
Kevin McCarthy's not trustworthy. We don't trust him. Their own conference doesn't trust him.
If you throw a speaker out that has 99% of their conference, that kept government open and paid the troops, I think we're in a really bad place for how we're going to run Congress.
Gaetz and team paved the way for this rebellion back when McCarthy needed their help to become Speaker in January. He made policy and procedural promises they say he didn't keep and decided now is the time to remove him from power.
Kevin McCarthy said something to all of us at one point or another that he didn't really mean and never intended to live up to.
Immediately, questions about who would take over as the top House Republican. The fear among many Republicans now, Amira, is that this sends a message that not only are they going to have trouble governing their own party themselves here on Capitol Hill, but also perhaps would cause further doubt for the voting public in the upcoming 2024 elections, and that could cost them the majority in the House.
Yeah, it's not the best look right now. Scott, the million-dollar question you mentioned is what happens now, given there doesn't seem to be an obvious replacement for McCarthy?
Right. The pro tem, who, in other words, the person who will stand in with the gavel right now, is a Republican out of North Carolina, Patrick McHenry. However, they have gone into, they plan to go into conference at 6:30 tonight. So very soon they'll be meeting behind closed doors and strategizing about what steps to take next. That does not mean there will be an imminent vote, that it will take place tonight. It could, but they may very well decide to convene tomorrow on this, perhaps even the next day. There's not a definitive timeline, but there will be a scramble. And keep in mind, it also does not mean that Kevin McCarthy might not take another shot at this. He could very well get more than 200 votes, but certainly at this point it would look like he wouldn't have enough unless Democrats cross the aisle. So a lot going on behind the scenes.
All right, Scott Thuman always keeping us informed. Thank you for that report out of D.C. Meantime, the former president, even while preoccupied with his own troubles in court today, questioned the vote to remove McCarthy, saying, why is it that Republicans are always fighting among themselves? Why aren't they fighting the radical left Democrats who are destroying our country? Now, the last congressman to vacate the office midterm was Republican John Boehner, who resigned his position back in 2015, right before a vote to remove him could have taken place. The only other speaker to face a vote to vacate, Speaker Joseph Cannon, who defeated the measure all the way back in 1910 to remain in the role. Well, we are on strike watch yet again, this time for 75,000 healthcare workers who could strike tomorrow against Kaiser Permanente. If they do, it will be the largest healthcare strike seen in U.S. history. Hundreds of facilities in California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Virginia, and the nation's capital could be targeted for work stoppages. Some Kaiser pharmacy workers in Oregon and Washington, in fact, have already hit the picket lines. They did that on Sunday. Among the concerns for union members are wages facilities and proper staffing conditions. Kaiser Permanente serves roughly 12.7 million Americans, making it the largest not-for-profit private health care provider in the country. All right, let's turn now to the suspect captured and charged in the 2-day disappearance of Charlotte Sena. Craig Nelson Ross Jr., the man police say has been charged with kidnapping Sena, a 9-year-old girl who had been camping with family at a New York State park over the weekend. And today, her rescue being described as a miracle after a big break in the case on Monday morning when the suspect left a ransom note in the family's mailbox. Authorities were able to trace the 47-year-old's fingerprints on that note to a previous DWI on record and locate him in a camper on his mother's property. Sena was discovered inside a cabinet there, thankfully unharmed. In a history-making call, Michigan's Supreme Court cleared the way today for the parents of Ethan Crumbley to face involuntary manslaughter charges, denying the couple's appeal. Ethan Crumbley was 15 when he killed 4 classmates at Oxford High School in 2021. The decision means Jennifer and James Crumbley will be the first parents in America to stand trial in a mass school shooting as prosecutors seek to hold them liable for buying their son the gun used in that shooting and failing to take steps to stop him. And on to day 2 of former President Donald Trump's fraud trial in New York. The judge in that case has issued a gag order, this following a disparaging post on social media made by one of the defendants about the judge's law clerk. The post has since been taken down, but it did show her with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and mocked her as, quote, Schumer's girlfriend. Judge Arthur Engoron says personal attacks on his staff are unacceptable. His order pertains to verbal attacks on court staff and applies to all parties in the case. Engoron says serious sanctions will be taken if the order is disobeyed. Meantime, Donald Trump said he plans to take the stand during the trial.
Mr. Trump, will you be testifying?
Yes, I will. At the appropriate time, I will be.
And Trump says he thinks a $250 million civil trial against him, his eldest sons, and Trump Organization executives is going, quote, very well. This after attacking the judge hearing the case, accusing him of being unfair. The judge has already ruled that Trump and his co-defendants are liable for fraud. Meantime, Hunter Biden facing a federal judge today over charges that he made false statements about his drug use at the time, his purchase of a gun that happened back in October of 2018. It comes as Republicans on Capitol Hill are working on their own case against Hunter Biden. The National Desk's Christine Frizzell has more.
Hunter Biden in a federal court in Delaware. The plea? Not guilty to 3 gun-related charges filed against him last month by special counsel David Weiss, who is reportedly now working on more federal charges connected to Hunter's foreign business deals.
The Committee on Oversight and Accountability will come to order.
House Republicans, meanwhile, ratcheting up their case against both Hunter Biden and President Biden after their first impeachment inquiry hearing was criticized as falling flat.
The committee has received 12,000 pages of bank records, and not a single page shows a dime going to President Joe Biden.
So, for upcoming hearings, they're working on a new round of witnesses to testify under oath, including one who has claimed for years to have firsthand knowledge of the business deals, a former partner, Tony Bobulinski.
Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret.
Bobulinski himself set to receive 20% before the deal fell through, later telling former Sinclair correspondent James Rosen,
This isn't my word. This is extremely well documented that Joe Biden was fully aware of things and involved.
House investigators also just releasing dozens of pages of WhatsApp messages. In one, Hunter Biden writes, 100K at least gets me until next month. His advisor Fran Persons responds, quote, he will help you with what you need, referring to Chinese Communist Party linked businessman Bo Zhang. Part of what Republicans say is a long list of payments from Chinese-linked businesses.
The Biden family members and Biden-associated businesses received over $1 million from State Energy HK Limited, a Chinese company. For what? What was the product or what was the service?
Those questions remain at the heart of the investigation by lawmakers, many of whom insist Joe Biden was the product, as Democrats dismiss the effort as one trying to distract from the mounting legal troubles of former President Trump. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting for the National Desk. America's News Now.
Christine, thank you. It may be October, but the summer heat, it is still around. Some areas in the plains and upper Midwest saw temps reaching the 90s over the weekend. And the ongoing heat wave, well, it's forecast to continue the next few days and spread into the Northeast and New England. It comes after NASA scientists said earlier this year that the Earth had its hottest summer on record in 2023. And to the case that has long sparked controversy, the Colorado Supreme Court says it will hear a case of a Christian baker who refused to make a cake for a transgendered woman celebrating her transition. This is the same baker, Jack Phillips, who won a partial victory before the Supreme Court back in 2018 when he refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. The current case will consider the baker's First Amendment rights versus the rights of the client under the state's anti-discrimination laws. Right now, fentanyl crackdown leaders from the DOJ, Homeland Security, and Treasury departments announced a series of indictments and sanctions against 14 individuals and 14 companies in both China and Canada in an effort to reduce the flow of the deadly drug into the United States. The Deputy Secretary of the Treasury said today they are also seeking out the friends, family members, and affiliates of the people who benefit from these illegal drug sales, with further actions expected. Well, if you have a cell phone, then you're likely getting a notification tomorrow afternoon. FEMA, it plans to test its emergency alert systems on Wednesday between 2:20 and 2:50 p.m. Eastern Time. All compatible phones that are turned on will get a message notification.
We recognize that in disasters, seconds count. Getting alerts out promptly to our communities saves lives. That's why FEMA is working with the Federal Communications Commission and your local public safety authorities on this test. We want to make sure that when it counts, we can keep you informed.
And be aware that the test will also be conducted on TV and radio stations. The manufacturers of all the first 10 prescription drugs picked for Medicare's price negotiations, they've agreed to participate, according to President Biden. This clears the way for lower costs, though there are still pending lawsuits from drug makers. The final prices aren't expected until next year, and older Americans won't see the benefits until 2026. How much cheaper they'll get, that is still unclear. Well, coming up, the latest jobs numbers are not what many economists were expecting. What the new report tells us about the health of the economy. Then one age group in particular is now the fastest growing target of online scams, and it may surprise you which one it is. The latest data and how to stay secure. Plus, a hunter located after going missing in a forest for days. We'll tell you who ended up tracking him down. Stay with us. U.S. job openings rose unexpectedly in August, according to new data out today. There were about 9.61 million open positions, up from around 8.92 million in July. Business services and finance had some of the biggest increases. The numbers suggest the labor market is still strong despite higher interest rates. And so far this year, the U.S. economy has defied forecasts of a recession, all thanks to the strong labor market and steady consumer spending. In the final few months of 2023, economists are warning about incoming headwinds. The National Desk's Atra Al-Nashar has more.
Outside, the season is changing, and so too are financial circumstances of many Americans. After a period of optimism, some economists too changing their view that the economy can dodge a recession. Budgets for about 40 million people are tighter as federal student loan payments resume this month after 3+ years of forbearance, leaving them with less discretionary income.
You need to have water, you need to have food. I don't really need to get like another t-shirt or something like that.
It's hard to know how sizable the impact will be on the overall economy, whether borrowers will spend less on dining, travel, or gifts for the holidays. Also eating into budgets are gas prices, and that's not expected to change anytime soon as oil prices hover around $90 per barrel. An OPEC Plus meeting Wednesday may result in further production cuts already stretching global supply.
The most unpredictable headwind may be the United Auto Workers strike. Its ripple effects have caused more than 6,000 layoffs, and according to Anderson Economic Group, almost $4 billion in economic losses in just the first 2 weeks.
We knew that it was unlikely this would be quick.
The strike has been a political flashpoint, with the likely presidential nominees from each party trying to court workers. President Biden in an especially tough position as a new Gallup poll shows Americans prefer Republicans on economic issues. The White House pushing back on low poll numbers.
We have real wage gains over the past few months, and that consistently supports strong consumer spending, which is leading to GDP growth estimates that are way above trend.
Promising jobs data out Tuesday from the Labor Department showing job openings in August rose to 9.6 million. If it's not enough to stave off an economic downturn, it's the nonpartisan National Bureau of Economic Research that officially determines whether there's a recession, usually months after one has already started. In Washington, I'm Atra Al-Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
While former union leader and Democrat lobbyist LaFonza Butler can now add California's senator to her title. Butler was officially sworn in today, selected by California Governor Gavin Newsom over the weekend to finish the rest of late Senator Dianne Feinstein's term. Sam Bankman-Fried's trial is now underway in New York, starting with jury selection. The co-founder of the failed crypto exchange FTX has pleaded not guilty to federal wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering charges. Bankman-Fried is accused of scamming customers and using the money for personal purchases. He could face more than 100 years in prison if convicted. In California, progress is being made as the SAG-AFTRA union of actors and the studio executives meet again tomorrow. The two sides did not say what they discussed in meetings yesterday, but did confirm they met for the entire day. The actors have been on strike since July 14th. Meanwhile, Netflix is preparing for a deal between the two sides. They announced today the streaming company will raise rates for their ad-free customers when the actors' strike does end. Netflix did not specify how much the price increase will be. Pope Francis suggests there could be ways to bless same-sex unions. The Vatican published a letter Pope Francis wrote to 5 conservative cardinals who asked him to affirm church teaching on homosexuality. His letter says blessings could be studied if they don't confuse that with a sacramental marriage. Catholic teachings say marriage is only between a man and a woman. The United States leads the world with online scam victims, and the fastest growing target is kids and teens. The National Desk's Lisa Fletcher has more.
A new study is turning some old ideas upside down about who's the most internet savvy. Turns out, in the last 5 years, people under the age of 20 have seen the largest percentage increase in money lost to scams. The research from the online investigation service Social Catfish shows that the amount of money lost by teens and children is up 2,500% since 2017, compared to 805% for seniors.
They just rush into things. That's majorly the reason why these young people get scammed. They are all over social media.
For 6 years, Chris, who lives in Nigeria, scammed people online.
There was a time I got $15,000 at once. That was the time I got $25,000 at once.
Now reformed, he works for American companies to help identify scams and teach potential victims how to avoid them. He says young people are an easy target, using things like fake social media influencer contests or the promise of relationships and fast money.
Most of them want quick money. It's crypto scam. They want to invest in Bitcoin, they want to get more money, they want to double their money. $100 for $1,000, $10,000 for $100,000.
And Chris says scammers are lurking in every corner.
Hundreds of thousands of scammers out there. There are so many.
FBI data shows Americans lost a record $10.3 billion to online scams in 2022. Chris says parents need to use more parental controls, limit their kids' access to social media, and spend more time discussing online safety.
Make sure you know who you're talking to. You can see me on video call right now. I can see you. I know you're real. You know I'm real. If you're talking to someone that is not going to show his face on video call, it's an absolute scam. It's a scam.
Coming up, a man was missing for days in a California forest. What happened after he thought he wasn't going to make it? We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in North Carolina, where voters could soon see new congressional lines and state House and Senate districts.
By the end of this year, we're going to have 3 new sets of maps, and those may very well look like the original maps that were proposed last go-round.
Western Carolina University political science professor Dr. Chris Cooper says voters should be prepared.
The state Supreme Court has changed partisan hands. So the last court that said that they were unconstitutional gerrymanders, that state Supreme Court was controlled by Democrats. The state Supreme Court today, controlled by Republicans.
The draft of the new congressional, state house, and Senate district maps haven't been unveiled. Areas around Mecklenburg County could see the biggest shakeups.
October 1st triggered a ban on outdoor burning in West Virginia from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Burning during legal hours requires a 10-foot safety strip around the fire, clear of brush and debris. Fall fire season in West Virginia runs through December 31st. Fall's low humidity adds to fire risks. So far into the season, only a moderate risk of fires. Could we see community-destroying forest fires like Hawaii, California, and Tennessee experienced? Yes, but it would take some extreme weather first.
We could have a situation the same as what they had in Gatlinburg a few years ago. It was almost that critical here at that time. We just lucked out and got a little bit more moisture than they did.
In California, a 75-year-old hunter was found safe after he was missing for 4 days in a forest. He got separated from the group that he was with when he was hunting in Sierra National Forest last week.
Fue terrible. It was terrible. It was terrible. I thought I wasn't going to make it. I thought it was going to be a small hike. When I got in, I didn't take my knife, radio, matches, lamp. I had no phone, no radio, nothing. Just my jacket and what I was wearing.
2 childhood friends who the man had taught how to hunt went to look for him. They saw smoke and went in that direction. They ended up finding him, and he was airlifted to a local hospital. Well, coming up, defying the odds, the record just broken by this 104-year-old woman. When we come back, stay with us. Dorothy does it again. Take a look at this. Dorothy Hoffner, who at 104 years old just jumped out of a plane at 13,000 feet for a second time, mind you, becoming the oldest person in the world to tandem skydive. When was her first jump, you ask? Well, just 4 years ago at the age of 100. Hoffner called the jump, quote, delightful, saying that age is just a number. After the jump was done, someone brought Hoffner her walker, which she uses to get around. Must have been really nice to ditch that for a little while. Go, Dorothy. So proud of you. Well, the Powerball jackpot is now at a historic high of around $1.2 billion. This is the 3rd largest amount in the game's history and the biggest of the year by far. The estimated cash value is just over $550 million. A few people did win $1 and $2 million prizes last night, but no one matched all numbers. The next drawing is tomorrow night, so if you're playing, best of luck to you. And that does it for this edition of the National Desk. We do invite you to join us again this evening for the latest coverage from the House after that historic vote to remove Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker. Just check your local listings. I'm Amira David. Thanks so much for watching.